Hey y'all, it's Nancy the Handy Scandy. Welcome back for another crafty venture. You can see we're going to get messy today. We're going to be playing with some powdered watercolor pigments. Now mine are from Stampin' Up. They are 100 years old. I don't even know. I've had them for a long time. The color that I'm using is Granny Apple Green, and something that you want to take note of is if you're using something like this, you really want a watercolor card or maybe a mixed media cardstock, something that's going to be able to hold up to the abuse, to all the water, that kind of thing. So that's exactly what I have. My cardstock is from Tonic. I will try to have everything listed downstairs and linked as I'm able. And yeah, we'll just go from there. So you saw me use my embossing buddy on my cardstock because I'm about to do some embossing. I am using the Roarsome background stamp from Whimsy, and I just want kind of a random and organic placement, if you will, of these spots because Roarsome is like, it's reptilian. So it's not quite dinosaur in my opinion, but who knows what dinosaur skin looks like. But it's reptilian for sure. Anyway, what I didn't want was those hard edges, but I got them, and I did not think to take my my paintbrush to soften up those edges before I did the heat embossing. Now I don't show a lot of the heat embossing process here because the cardstock is so textured and thick that it just doesn't have that beautiful transition from powder to being melted that we love so much. So you won't see much of that. But I do have to stamp this several times before I get it to look the way I want it. Here I remembered the paintbrush to knock off some of those hard edges and to knock the embossing powder away from the areas that I didn't like, because I just kind of want it to be, like I said, random and organic, and I'm getting there. And in a little while, this really won't even matter because, as I've said before about backgrounds, it just becomes the background. It feels like a very important part of it right now because it's front and center, and it is important, but it blends into the background and it's covered up by the focal point, so a lot of it is not seen anyway. So trying to remember, don't sweat the small stuff. I'm going at it one more time, and this time I'm going to roll my stamp. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen anyone do this, but it's a great technique when you just want bits and pieces of your image. Especially good for mixed media, grungy types of projects, vintage projects, distress, any of those terms that you want to use. Rolling your stamp is a really good way to get that kind of effect because you just get little bits and pieces. So it could be a textured stamp like this. It could be like a script. It could be an image of like ledger paper, something like that. Anything. It could be a letter, postmark, anything like that. It just gives you the bits and pieces that we tend to like for those vintagey, grungy backgrounds. So keep that in mind if you're trying to get that kind of look to roll your stamp. So I know that took me a long time to say, but anyway, what you didn't see is that I sprayed this cardstock with some water, and you can see as I'm putting the pigment down, it looked like I was putting a lot. I really didn't, but you can see how the colors are blooming already, and now I'm adding water to it and they just continue to bloom. There's so much pigment in that little bit of powder that I put down. If you've ever heard anybody say, use these gently, use them sparingly, I'm here to tell you, use them gently and sparingly. When you sprinkle it out, or however you might get your pigment powders out of your containers, just go gently. Because you can see I'm already dabbing it up and I'm wiping it off, and there's so much pigment left. Keep in mind, like I've said before, as I quote Tim Holtz, wet on wet blends, wet on dry layers. So I want there to be layers. So I already have the stamping and layers of that, right? And then I have this first layer of pigment powder. And then as it dries and I have those, excuse me, darker places where there's a lot of pigment, I'll spray it with some more water and I'll activate it again. But because of the way the color is drying, it has kind of those hard edges where it went from wet to dry, wet to dry. That's adding layers as well. And it's something to think about when you do this, because if you have a spot that you don't like I have that kind of gonzo nose there on the, right there in that top right, well now it's top left corner. Boom, spray it, no more gonzo nose. It's gone. It's all blended perfectly and beautifully. So here is where I try to figure out how do I keep as much of this background and still use the dyes that I love. And I didn't want to lose any of the green. I definitely didn't want to lose that focal point up at the top with that white space. I wanted to embrace that. So what I decided to do was take the only die I have in my entire stash that's like, it's a 4x6. And that's this postage stamp. You can see it. It's postage stamp die. It's from the stamp market, and it's the only one in my entire stash that's that size. So that's the one. That one won. I mean, that was hands down. There was nothing else to compete with it. So I could not tell you the measurement for my card base, and I just cut the black layer to fit perfectly behind the postage stamp, essentially. But by using that, I was able to keep most of that beautiful background. And then I'm able to use the smaller frame from, I think it's called Grass. I think it's just called Grass. And I don't have it in front of me, but I'll either put it on the screen or I'll definitely have it linked and listed downstairs. The first one I was trying to use was Vine. I think the second one is just called Grass. And both of those sets come with this smaller size that are perfect for ATCs. So this was a good way for me to be able to use that die, because I really do like it. I think it's fun. It fits the theme, and it creates a focal point and kind of a little, like using a viewfinder to see my little scene that I'm about to build. So this particular stamp set is called Toadally Awesome. It's brand new. It's absolutely adorable. Two cute little frogs with these great big bulgy bug eyes. I love them. Then as you can see, there's the cattails. There's a little dragonfly up in the top there. There's stones. You can see the stones with some greenery around them. There's two fun sentiments, and there's also a fly. We'll be putting the fly on here too. So earlier, I don't know if you saw, I used my Posca pen to put some white splatters because there's so much intense color in that green and black area that I just wanted a little bit of brightness, and so that's where the white splatter came in. Didn't add black splatter because the stamping really kind of makes it look like black splatter, so we didn't need any more of that. So I've got my cattails down, I got my frame down, of course, and now I'm adding an action wobbler to the back of my froggy frog. If y'all don't know what action wobblers are, there's these little springy plastic pieces, and you can see that I'm about to adhere it to the back of him. I always use a little bit of wet glue, as I do pretty much on every project. I use wet glue and something dry and stronger, just because I need the wiggle room. So a little bit of wet glue on the back of the frog and on the back of the action wobble, because now is where I stick it to my project, and I'm moving it around, of course. And I wanted him to go right there. At first I thought I might want him behind the cattails, but I didn't. It's just too cute. And you can see, I don't know if you saw me flick him and he wobbled, but we'll see him up again close up again soon. My words, guys, I apologize. There I have the fly just inside the frame and the dragonfly just outside the frame. And those two things and the cattails kind of sticking outside of the frame help your eye to go from being focused inside the little grass frame to then kind of expanding to the whole card panel. And I think that's just kind of a fun way to build your scene. And then of course I put the sentiment. I just took advantage of that white space, and I couldn't be happier with the way this card has turned out. So much dimension, so much movement, so many layers, and it's grungy, but it's still super cute. I feel like this was a really fun and effective way to kind of mix my grungy aesthetic with just these cute little images from Whimsy that I absolutely adore. So excuse me, learning as I go to continue to kind of modify what I love to make it even better. So here, of course, I had to have some This Calls for Confetti, and those little beautiful gems are the Glazed Lime. And I think that does it. I think the card is done and dusted. Y'all let me know what you think. Wobble, wobble, wobble. Wobble, wobble, wobble. Super cute. You guys, let me know what you think about pigment powders, about action wobbles, about whatever you want to talk about. I will meet you downstairs in the comments. Like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already a member. If you are already a member, it's a little late, but I welcome you, and I thank you, all of you, for spending some time with me today. So guys, again, I'll meet you downstairs, and until next time, this is Nancy, the Handy Scandy, mwah, and I'm out.